Okay, hi. I did not expect so many people to show up, so I'm very happy that you're all here. My name is Kirsti Strømstad. I work in Variant at the Trondheim office, and I'm also responsible for the strategic design part of Variant. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about some practical examples of strategy and how to actually use it to drive change. And the motivation behind this is, it goes a long way back to when I was a fresh designer out of university. And I thought that design would solve everything from small usability problems to the huge societal changes. And then I started working on projects and got kind of struck by reality. I found myself in projects that didn't really have a direction, and I didn't really understand the purpose or what we were actually solving or what change we were making. And it left me with a burning question to why, when really talented people have both time and resources, why are we still not able to create really good solutions? The question, it led me from design and into the world of strategy, where I've been for the last almost 10 years now. And what I've come to learn is that creativity, it needs direction, and a problem, it needs context. And even the most or the best ideas can solve the wrong problems if you don't really have strategy to back it up. But I think also the most important of these is what Tonje talked a bit about earlier. It's when you're working with strategy to have humility, because strategy, it means nothing without execution. So today I'm here more or less with the goal of trying to demystify strategy. Because usually when I talk about strategy, it's to leaders about how to create strategy. And strategy is never perfect, and you can never really get it right because it's always changing. So I think what we can try to become better at is to receive strategy, to decode it, and to understand how to leverage it to drive change. Because strategy in this way is not only for executives or the top decision makers. I think it's for everyone who wants to make a difference. So let's get into this. Yeah, everyone's super excited. Woo! It's almost lunch. Yeah. So before we go into the concrete examples, I want to say a little bit about the purpose of strategy. This might be a repetition for some of you, but I always find myself having to remind myself about what is the actual purpose. So picture this, that in a perfect world for a company, everything is predictable. You can plan your resources ahead of time, you can see what your income is going to be, and everything will align perfectly. Unfortunately, the world isn't really predictable. It's quite unpredictable. And a company, it needs strategy to understand how they're going to meet these changes. And particularly changes that will affect the demand for their solutions. So we all know that the world is changing, and I was thinking about having a lot of examples of big trends, but I think you're going to hear a lot about it today. So maybe just try to picture what are the biggest trends or the biggest challenges that are on your radar right now. I guess it will involve a little bit about technology and this AI thing, a little bit about the geopolitical tensions that's happening in the world, the demographic challenges with the aging population, how companies are organizing, and all of these things. There are a lot of things happening. And I don't know about you, but I kind of have the feeling that history is happening a little bit faster than it used to. The thing is, it's not actually just a feeling. Accenture, they have this global disruption index, where they measure the changes within the spheres of economic, geopolitical, and technological spheres. And for the last, or between 2017 and 2022, this rate of change is 200%. I'm not really sure what it means, but In comparison, this change index from 2011 to 2016 was 4%. So it says something about the rate of the change in the world. And this rate of change is making it increasingly difficult for companies to understand how are they going to survive these changes, these shifts around us. And if we survive, how are we also going to grow and hopefully thrive as a company? The answer to this question is strategy. And I usually use this as a rule of thumb because there are a lot of theories and a lot of different ways of saying what strategy is and what it isn't. But I found this is maybe the easiest way for me to remember what it is. Because strategy, it's about understanding the things around you that you can't change. You can't change the trends or the things around you in the world. You can't decide or you can't control what your customers think. You can't control where the best people choose to work. But you can strive to understand these things and give a response. You can make a choice or a bet on what position you can take in order to meet these unpredictable things, in order to reach your ambition. On the other hand, what you can control, it's the decision on what you're going to do inside your company. And these decisions should be based on your strategy. Decisions if, are we going to focus on more marketing this year? Are we going to build a new production plant? Are we going to hire more people? Are we going to start a new product? Are we going to discontinue service? All of these things are things that you can control within your company. So here we have a little bit about the difference, leading up to kind of the first more hands-on examples. Because it's important, I think, to recognize what strategy is. It can't really be proven in advance, in a way. When you receive a strategy, it will always be a bit vague because it's a high-level exercise. But even though you get a strategy and you don't really understand it, or at first glance, it doesn't really mean that it's a bad strategy. So in understanding what is a plan, what is sort of a bad strategy, and what is a good strategy, I hope that I can leave you with some tools in how to actually use it to make change. So first, the fun thing, in a way, some examples of bad strategy. Have anyone of you experienced bad strategy before? Yeah, one hand. Then I think you will recognize some of this. I haven't used like real, I haven't credited these to any companies, but most of these are taken from my real life experiences. And of course there's many more, but I think this is a really good first one. The very self-evident strategies. And there's a very good litmus test for this, or litmus test. If you ask, is the opposite of this just a plain stupid thing to do? It's not really a good strategy. Because the chance that all your competitors are doing the exact same thing are pretty high. So, okay, we're going to be customer-centric. It would be pretty stupid to not care about your customer, right? So this is maybe more like a hygiene factor than actually a strategy. The next one is more like the lazy strategies. And I find these apply to a lot of new technology, a lot of new platform services. I see some nodding. We are Uber for dogs, or we're Facebook for old people, or we're Airbnb for something else. Just taking something else and saying you're going to do the same. Then nobody really knows what it means. Chatbots. This actually happened a while back, or a few years back. The strategy was you have to release a new app every 2 weeks. And we're going to use chatbots. My boss had just read an article about chatbots. This is a long time ago, so it was kind of the hype at the time. Now there's other hypes, but of course chatbots, it's not a very good strategy. it can be very tempting on jumping to the current hype, but when the hype is not a hype anymore, you're sort of lost, and these cycles are happening really fast. The Kodak moment we always have to kind of put in here. There's also this strategy of just closing your eyes and saying, "Oh, we have such a big part of the market, so we're going to survive." The dog's dinner. It's just basically a long list of all the things we're going to do. And I see this a lot. A lot of companies say, we're going to do this and this and this and this. And the clue is we're going to do it with less resources. So we're going to fire people and do more. It's not going to take you where you want to go. And the last one, I remember, I think I actually quit this job when the boss came and had 100 million. That's our strategy. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm trying to save the world, and I'm not sure how this is going to help me do that. So it's easy to kind of find bad strategy, and it's easy to kind of make it into puns. But I think when you get a strategy, it kind of starts with the exercise of empathy and trying to understand, or I spent a lot of time trying to understand why are there so much bad strategy. And of course, it's difficult, and there's a lot of angst connected to strategy because it can't be proven. It's decisions about the future. But another aspect is that I find a lot of businesses don't really take strategy seriously until they're struggling. I'm not sure, I don't really want you to think about all the bad times you had, but if you can think a little bit back to when you last had a bad day. Did it really feel easy to see new options? Be curious about the world around you and use your creativity when you're already struggling? Often not, because your creativity and your options shrink. To see new good options to make choices between, it requires that you have some hope, that you have optimism, that you have energy to actually be creative. So starting to work on strategy before you're in a bad place is really, really important, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. All right, let's go into some of the good examples. And I'm going to try to do this a little bit fast so that we have time for questions at the end. So I hope that you have some questions for me, or at least that you can add or build upon the things that I'm suggesting, because these are mostly things based on my own experience. It's not really a theory. But what do I need to actually use a strategy to make a choice? Because, you know, that is the problem with bad strategy. It doesn't really help you in doing a better job or to drive change. It doesn't help people focus and work in the same direction. To do that, you actually, or at least I need to understand, where are we going in the long term? What is our ambition? Where are we today? And what is the biggest challenge we're facing, or that we're saying this is the biggest challenge that we have to overcome to reach that goal? Because then I can understand the choice of why we're choosing to take this position at this time. Some examples of companies that I think has done pretty well at strategy. Feels a little bit bad using air transportation, but this is an example that's been used a lot by the strategist Roger Martin. So I know this is a good example of a great strategy. But what Southwest did was that they challenged the status quo of air travel by saying that we're going to offer air travel as an alternative to Greyhound buses. We're going to make it so affordable that people can use it for commuting. And to do that, they had to change the entire business model of how you organize air travel to make it more affordable. So they made some really hard decisions. They didn't have the traditional hub and spoke model where you have a hub and then your planes fly in and out. They decided we're going to fly point to point, because we only make money when we're in the air. they decided that they're not going to use travel agencies and stuff like that. People had to book their own tickets. They decided to only have one sort of airplane, the Boeing 747, I think it is. And they made all of these choices that managed to help them take this position. And from being an underlier or a niche that nobody really took seriously, they're now the biggest airline in the States. Another example of a legacy company that's been really good with innovation and strategy is called Faber-Castell. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. There's a lot of designers here. I guess you've seen the pens, the pencils. Well, it's a really old company from Germany, I think, that has hundreds of years of history. But they were facing a tough market and a tough situation when a new technology came to be. It was called the calculator, so it's a little bit way back. But what most of their competitors did was that, okay, we have to go away from pencils. We have to start to make calculators instead. But Faber-Castell, they made a different choice, a strategic choice, and said, we don't know how to make calculators, even though a calculator can do the same as we do on paper with a pen. What we are really good at is making pens. So they stick to their core competence and found new ways of expanding their business. So from just having graphite pens, they started to use colored pencils, eyeliners for makeup, all kind of different pens in different markets. And now they have this really good strategic ambition. We unleash creative potential. And it helps them make these choices about which direction they're going to go. The last example I'm going to take is Vestre. Have you heard about this company? They make furniture, outdoor furniture. And it's pretty cool because they have one factory in Norway and one in Sweden. So it's a Norwegian company, but they're still present. And most of the people working on the Norwegian factory is from Sweden. It's really, really nice people. But Vestre, they said that, okay, our mission is to create social meeting places. And we're going to create this by building and selling furniture for these public spaces, but they should be affordable and really high quality from a sustainability perspective. So they've taken sustainability as kind of their core competitive advantage and used it for everything in their organization. And what's really interesting is that they're so clear about what are the challenges that are lying ahead of us. And everyone in the company knows about these challenges and are working towards it. So one of the big challenges they have is, how do we actually measure what a good meeting place is? We don't really know. We can create these meeting places, but how can we prove that they're good for people? And the other is turning their production so that the furniture has such high quality, so they can actually go back to a circular loop. So everyone is constantly working towards this. So if you ever visit Vestre, ask anyone, and they will tell you the same thing. It's really pretty cool. So from examples to actually going into the really decoding strategy. Do you have a lot of experience receiving strategy and using it in your work? Yeah? Do you find it easy to make strategic decisions every day? Yeah, I don't. But I've worked with a lot of companies that managed to do this in a really good way. And I'm going to use one example from back from 2017 with a project that we did. And the reason I choose this is that usually in these kind of presentations I find that you use kind of Apple or like all these American tech companies. Maybe this isn't as exciting as the huge companies on the other side of the world. This is a small medium business, a factory in Fredrikstad, Norway. But I love these guys. They're really, really cool. They're taking their social responsibility really seriously. They have a over 100-year history where they've repeatedly changed their business, and they're really aware that they are a cornerstone of the society in Fredrikstad. Okay, so let's go into this example. Bear with me as we try to decode their strategy. So their strategic ambition was sustainable food production for future generations. But what they do is that they import soy from Brazil, refine it, and sell it for animal food production and beef production. So when they came to us, I already had a kind of the sense that, okay, our strategic ambition, it doesn't really align so much with what we do. But does that mean that we just have to like shut down our factory? You can't do that because you have a responsibility for society. So what we were trying to do is understand, okay, what can we do to get here, even though this is where we are now? And during this process, or in the beginning, we experienced a new challenge. I'm not sure if you know who this is. It's a Norwegian influencer, and at this time she suddenly became very interested in palm oil, which is used in was used in a lot of food production in Norway. And literally overnight, she managed to eliminate the market for palm oil in Norway. And these guys were like, "Oh, soy, maybe we're next." So they had really, in a sense, they were lucky to get this really rude awakening. But this was the challenge. And then it's about kind of identifying what is your choice when you experience this challenge. And I think a lot of strategy and a lot of theory, it kind of jumps straight into what position, what solutions are we going to make, and don't really take the time to identify what is the choice that we actually have. So the choice that they felt like they had was either to double down on what they were doing, invest in lobbying, invest in marketing, to try to build the brand of soy as something that's really good. And they were actually doing a lot of good things. They were having ecological soy. They had complete transparency throughout the environment chain. So they did all they could to make soy as sustainable as possible, but you still never would get all the way there. So the other choice they had was to innovate. And these brave people chose to innovate. Within the company, we went, of course, through a long process. But what ended up doing was actually reframing their position, reframing what they do. So from being a company that say we import and refine soybeans for the animal feed industry, we are now going to provide sustainable protein for animal and human consumption. Because the need for protein is really high, both for food, for people, and for animals. And we're not going to get away from that. But what are sustainable protein in the future? So then you kind of have the pieces, the most important things that you can kind of pull out from a strategy. And what you're left with is an understanding and a common sense of what your position is. You have a direction, and then you have some framework within where you can place your creativity. So with this as a starting point, we said, okay, what if we really unleash our creativity and we do this? What would that look like? What kind of business opportunities will we be presented with? And we investigated so many things that before wouldn't make sense at all. Like, it wouldn't be on the radar, but now it had a purpose. We knew why we were investigating these new technologies or these new things. So we were looking at industrial symbiosis, which is about different factories different production companies sharing resources and energy and data. We're looking at circular economy business models. And this was in 2017, so in Norway everyone was talking about it, but no one was doing it yet. So it was quite early. We were looking into logistics, because of course they were really good at their value chain. And logistics, we saw that that was one of the huge challenges in the future, because all the kind of bulk ships they were using were being discontinued, and they were also very polluting. We looked at digital services. How can we make platforms from the knowledge we already have? We looked at autonomous vehicles in the production, and became part of the Horizon 2030 projects. And we also started looking at local farming of proteins, which was kind of wild, but I remember the last day one of the guys were like, we have to start doing vertical farming. And the mom is like, there's a huge market for it. And this was people that, when the first day we got there, they were like, you're going to fire us. But now they were trying to convince us that there are hope and there are so many opportunities for the future. And where are these guys now? I think it's quite spectacular. They have started to share and sell the leftover energy that they're producing. They bought the harbor near the industry area in order to take a position within the maritime logistic. They took a lot of the things that they were already doing really well for themselves and started to sell it as a service. So both quality control of the soy that you could also do for a lot of different types of seeds they started doing. And they also started to sell traceability as a service, because they're really, really good at traceability throughout the entire value chain, back to where the first seed or that the farmer puts in the ground. But what I think is kind of the big game changer here, like all of these things are stuff that can make them profitable short term. But this is kind of their long-term ambition. They started a sub-company or a daughter company called Pronofa that started actually making these kind of things. It's called Sayona or something. And they actually I think they have like 3 farms. And they've gotten so many big investors doing this. And last year they actually released it as a product called Purpley. So they went, now they're all the way to our plates, to the end consumer. But this would be unimaginable in 2017. But by working, using creativity in engaging, they're now a lot closer to their final ambition. All right, I'll try to summarize the things that I kind of tried to take you through, or the NOFA journey. So the next time that you receive a strategy, I think we should all just think that a perfect strategy doesn't exist. So let's just become really good at taking it in and then become a very valuable asset for our organization. What I would do, this is, as I said, not theory, so you have to adapt it for how you work or how you think. But what I usually do is, you have to make a choice. Do you want to contribute, or do you just want to execute? We have to accept that not every person wants to make a change. Some people just want to come to work and write code, and that is okay. But then you have to do what you're told also, or else you're just a rock in the road. If you want to challenge, then you also have to contribute. That's sort of your responsibility. So for all of us that wants to contribute, I would start with getting familiar with the strategy. Like, strategy always comes in different formats. So I always try to put it into kind of my understanding of strategy, trying to figure out, okay, what is actually the long-term ambition for the company, even though they may be not able to articulate it themselves. What is the situation today? Where are we? What do we have? What are our core competencies that we can use and build upon? And what is the position that they or your company is saying that this is the position that we're going to take? And a position, it's, if you're familiar with business model canvas, for example, a position can kind of be the value proposition and your target market for your business. Really easily explained. And then try to understand the context. Because this doesn't really mean anything if you don't understand what is driving the change or the need for change. What are the trends affecting us? And what is actually the choice that has been made? Because I don't think a lot are really that aware of what is the actual choice you're making. And bad strategy is also always, or usually a result of not actually making a choice, the initial choice of what we're going to do. But if you can see this, you can really help your leaders. Understand like what is the short-term goals? How is the success of the strategy measured? Tonje mentioned OKRs earlier. That's a way of measuring success. But when you have these things, it's about trying to imagine your role in this. Translating the position, the frames, into your own context, where you are in the company. And try to find what tools can you apply? What are the skills that you have are the ones that you can apply? What are the blockers for you to actually help or to use this strategy to make choices? And I think that going through some of these things and translating the strategy to your own context, it's much easier to start to frame your ideas in this strategic context. And then it's really nice, a really good starting point to spark that creativity, to come up with the solutions or the business models that no one really thought that were possible, but framing it in a strategic context, then it makes sense suddenly. It makes sense. Why should we do this and not do that? Yes. But all in all, I think the main insight from this last decade of working with this is that technology, design, and strategy is basically just tools. And we use these tools to make strategy really, really difficult. But trying to kind of translate it to our own situation. We people who are actually the ones who create the value, we can use it to make real change. Yes. I think that's what I'm going to stop there. And if there's some questions or insights or feedback to the things we talked about, or if you still like, I thought I would learn how to understand strategy and I still have no clue. Now we have a little bit of time to dig into that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Anyone wants to share any insights? No. Okay, then I would recommend to go outside and get some sun because it's like 5 minutes to lunch. And please, I would really, really appreciate if you have questions then or something that can help me in my future work with strategy, please come and see me. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice lunch and day.